جلجلت جلجلت عاليا في الأفق صيحة الأباء وانبرت تسمع البغين أنغم الممات. جلجلت جلجلت.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. Obviously, many people in this country have this proud to be English, proud to be British thing. But what is it to be British? The word British, actually, the word Brit comes from history, and it meant slave trade. So when you're saying you're proud to be British, you're proud of your slave trade. You're proud of enslaving people, and that's what the British do. They enslave people. Through time they enslave people. Even to this modern day, we think that slavery is abolished, but it's the slavery of the mind now. The slavery of the human. No human being will sit there in this country and take slavery, but without realizing it, your mind is being enslaved. So you're still British, yeah. You know, you're still within the slave trade. And also talking about being proud of being English. What is it that you're actually proud of? You're proud of a land that has 24-hour drinking. You're proud of a land that has places where prostitution is legal. Like, you know, men out there might be going, that's how. Imagine that it's your daughter, bruv, or your sister. Would you be like, yeah, that's my way of life then? No, of course you wouldn't. You'd be going there dragging your sister or your daughter out of that place, telling her not to do it. But then it's okay for somebody else's sister or daughter to do it, and you pay them and have sex with them, which is completely beyond my bewilderment. I would never let my sister or daughter be in that situation, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody else's sister or daughter. Also, in this proud of English mentality, we're proud about drinking. How many people die in car-related accidents of alcohol, alcohol poisoning? People might sit there and say, "Oh, who's this white English person?" Foremost, I'm Muslim. If you want to refer to me as a white English person, you can. Foremost, I'm Muslim, yeah? But let's say, for instance, argument's sake again, I'm a white English person. I've grown up in one of the most predominantly white populated areas in South London. I've grown up in Bermondsey, and I've witnessed the likes of EDL in them sort of places, what they're about and how they move. And I used to go to Millwall games. But when I look at the sort of people that stood beside me at them times when we were doing that, I have to be honest with you, most of them are idiots. Because they start in groups, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, one-on-one they run. They start on the vulnerable, the weak, the people who they know ain't going to come out with a reaction to them. And everyone can say, oh no, but I've witnessed this with my own eyes, I've seen it. Let's go back to the history of EDL now. When it actually first started out, you was against black people, Asian people, every other race except white people. Yeah, and no one could deny the facts of this. This is facts, I know this, yeah. You used to join National Front marches, used to follow BNP, who were what? They were against black people, Asian people, anybody coming into the country. Now that their views was not adopted and everybody come into the country anyway, and everybody's now interracial, mingled up in this society anyway and accept each other, they now move on to the next fascism, which is what? Against Muslims. So they said to be against Muslims, we need as many people in our faction as possible, which is now black people, Asian people, and you're all joining this faction who used to be against you beforehand. They used to want you out of their land, call you scroungers on benefit, come in there robbing all the houses, robbing all the corner shops. So this is what the EDL used to say about you. They're fascists, they're bigots. All they do is they move on to the next fascism, support it, control the people to support in it. You're travelling to football grounds now with what? Getting football hooligans. You don't even know where it is you're supporting. You're actually supporting people who are the enemies of God. Now you say, God is not. Do you know the most stupidest thing I've ever heard from someone's mouth? Why are Muslims making it more difficult to worship God? God is a 3-letter word. Allah is a 5-letter word. This is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard from someone's mouth in all my time. And these are the sort of things that come from these people's mouths all the time. Just unlogical, no brain work into what you're saying. And that's where it comes into blind following. Because someone who doesn't blind follow, uses their own logic, they assess the situation. Obviously, everybody knows my beliefs on democracy. Democracy is hypocrisy, and it is evident because the root of democracy comes from Greek times, whereas it was now adopted into this land as an ideology, a way of thinking, a way to control the people. So it's nothing from this land anyway. Yeah, so when you're fighting for something that ain't from this land anyway, what's to say that Sharia can't be here when it is from this land? Why? Because Allah created the earth and everything in it. So every part of land, every part of dry earth where people are living have the right to have Sharia put in. Now Sharia is a better way of life. Even the own Archbishop of Canterbury, he said that this land would be a better way of life if Sharia was here. That was the words from your own Archbishop. He said this. You can look it up on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. It's fact. I'm not just making stuff up on the spot, you know. So obviously people know that Sharia is a much better way of life. Now obviously it's alhamdulillah, my brother took Shahada 2-3 weeks ago, alhamdulillah. My mum, alhamdulillah, she became a Muslim as well. And you know, there's many British born Muslims that have reverted to Islam. So the message to the EDL as well is, why do you feel that you can't accept Islam? Because you've been indoctrinated into a way of life by these people around you? None of them know what's good for you. They want you to go around on the street, start shouting for views that are not even political. Your views don't even have a political status within government. You are considered yobs. You are considered violent, alcoholic. Inshallah, we invite you to Islam. We invite you to La ilaha illallah. We invite you to accept a better way of life. We invite you to better your own way of life, a cleaner way of life, a spiritual way of life, a political way of life, an ideology which actually works for mankind, and the best ideology, because Allah knows best for man what he knows not for himself. We as Muslims, we stand by La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, and there's no God worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad is the final messenger. And we believe that our way of life is superior to your way of life. It's evident. If you come to a Muslim woman, she covers herself up. She doesn't put herself as a sex symbol for the people. She doesn't become a prostitute for people in the street, you know. And men, we look after our women. We make sure they're protected, and you know, we look after our children. We don't bow down to no man. We don't worship no man. We don't adopt a way of life which is detrimental to our health. Like obviously that drinking, all this is detrimental to your health. It's not no secret. It's publicised that you even on your own packets of fags it says warning, health warning on the packet of fags, but you still buy it and want to kill yourself with it. How you do that, I don't know. Like that's like me picking up some cyanide and go, oh, it's poisonous, but I'm still going to take it, you know, just to see what it does to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. Now you say that Muslims are blind following, blind following, blind following. We're not blind following, we're doing what Allah commands us into the Quran. And if every Muslim was to do what Allah commands us in the Quran, you would find that there'd be a lot more Muslims in support of us when we're at demonstrations against you. You live your life thinking that this way of life is the only way of life that you need to have, when it's not. If we go to the example of Egypt and Tunisia and Yemen recently, they've all rose up against their government who have done nothing but enslave them and oppress them. Now in this country you are oppressed. You may think you're unimpressed because you're going to work, but you're paying 20% of your money is robbed before you even see it. You don't even get to pay that yourself. There's no trust in this land. The government don't trust you. So they rob 20% of your money, which has now gone up to 22.5%, I believe. They're taking this money before you even see it. You oppose our way of life more so. Why? Because it's alien to your way of life. You see that our women are liberated, that our women are safe, that our women are protected, and that we are willing to die for our women. We're willing to protect our women with our lives. We're willing to protect our children with our lives. And we're willing to rise up and stand up for every single Muslim across the world, whether he's black, Asian, white, Chinese, whatever culture it is, we're willing to stand up for him. There's not a racial divide between us. But your way of life is what? Drinking, clubbing, sniffing cocaine, having homosexual relationships, doing acts of paedophilia. Even in your own way of life, you stood side by side with a man by the name of Richard Prince, who himself was convicted of paedophilia, of containing images or something along them lines. We don't know for certain, but what we do know for certain was he is convicted upon this act. How many more people in your organisation stand by this and do this? How many more people in your organisation are going into Soho on weekends and paying boys? It's clearly evident that by the acts of some of your people, we have witnessed at first hand ourselves that old people have been attacked from our religion by people of your religion. That one man recently, about 4 or 5 months ago in East London, he got attacked by 20 of your members on his own when he was with his wife. You know, this is what happened. The point here is not to address what you're doing or what you're doing or how you're, but it is to address what your way of life entails and what you want to enforce upon other people in your land. Now, obviously, inshallah, you're in support of the war. When your soldiers come back home proclaiming that they are war heroes, which we all very well know that they're not. And let's say, for instance, just for argument's sake, that they are war heroes. How are your war heroes treated when they come back with 2 arms missing, a leg missing, they're in a wheelchair, half of their face blown off because they was in a land attacking women and children when they shouldn't be anyway? How are they treated? The government do what? They leave them to be a burden on their mothers and to be a heartbreaking situation to the mothers of them, and don't supply any funds. Now, obviously, you are fully aware that the poppy burning took place. Let's go to the instance of the poppy burn. Now, how much money is made off the poppies when they're being sold in the UK? Because most people in the UK, most people have got generous hearts. You're just misguided. We're not talking about the EDL. None of you have got generous hearts. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't be setting up organisations to be enemies of Allah, enemies of Islam. But most of the people in the UK have got generous hearts. They're just misguided. And most of the people will pay at least 50p for a poppy. At least 50p for a poppy, and millions upon millions upon millions upon tens of millions of poppies are sold in the UK every time the armistice day comes around for the poppies. Millions upon millions of poppies are sold. Now, let's say, for instance, at the lower end that 50p per each poppy is paid, because no one in this country is not generous enough where they would only put a penny in for a poppy. No one does this. Most UK citizens will pay 50p a poppy. I'm still seeing them on pension, probably dying from cold. They're not even looked after. They're on a state pension of probably £130 a week, not even that. It doesn't even get them by. They don't receive none of the money. They're out selling their stories to newspapers to make extra money off it, to highlight how the government is treating them. And the EDL, you EDL members want to stand there in support of a government that don't do nothing for you, except for you making them rich by paying them taxes. Then they're stealing your taxes off them and making themselves richer. You're putting money in their pocket on alcohol, cigarettes. You're becoming a slave to the trade, whereas you think that cocaine and ecstasy and smoking weed and all these things is a good way of life. What? You desire anarchy, you desire filth, you desire dirt, you desire homosexuality, you desire all these things. And it is evident from the system, from the way of life that is in this country, that this is what you desire. Because you want to rise up and talk against Muslims when we are trying to introduce a better system, a better way of life to your land. But when your own Catholic Pope was found and publicised as a paedophile and a person who covers up the acts of paedophilia, you had nothing to say on this matter. Now, also, when the alcohol was a problem in this country, the government wanted to come up with a way to support and change the position of how alcohol is ruining this land. And the answer was what? Let's open 24-hour pubs. us as Muslims, we believe that is absolutely nonsense. How can you solve a problem by making the problem bigger? You know, but obviously EDL support this. Why? Because I'm pretty sure that 99% of you drink alcohol. Going back to the alcohol problem, when you drink the alcohol, you're out in clubs, you do this, you get into fights with people you don't even know, over women who are also out in the clubs having alcohol, half-dressed, you know, which you feel is liberation, but the woman then has to get a taxi and then feels unsafe to get in the taxi home when she had to get in the taxi home because she was unsafe not to get in the taxi home. So she's in a lose-lose situation. There's no win-win about it for the woman. Yeah, but this is the way of life that you want to indoctrinate on people. Also, your way of life consists of drug, fornications out of marriage, women falling pregnant whereas they're led by a man that they don't know, whereas they're led then to have an abortion, and furthermore go on to kill a human life which is being produced. Now, you could come with your political statement and say, oh, but it wasn't born into the world, it had never chance to live. From when it had a beating heart, from when it was a cell inside the body producing and growing, it was a form, it was a living form, and it was killed. So that's another evil that comes from the alcohol. There's many evils that come from the alcohol. Like every Friday, Saturday night, I've been in casualty myself, waiting for things. And when I'm in there, 2/3 of the people are alcoholics with cuts on their faces, bruises on their faces, battered clothes, torn up shoes. Why? Because the government in this land does not eradicate the evil. It furthers the evil by adding more to the evil.